Living on a piece of land contested by two powers can be difficult. Certainly, it can lead to the political isolation of said inhabitants, thereby giving rise to calls for self-determination away from any foreign power. This is the case in various historical instances, such as in Uruguay in the 1800s or Kosovo in the present day. Similarly, forgotten to the annals of history is the tiny Vermont Republic, a state in North America that belonged to people who felt neither British nor American, but proud Green Mountain Boys. This is the historiographer, and today the forgotten history of the Vermont Republic will be explored. Nestled between New York and New Hampshire is the modern state of Vermont. By the 1700s, the British colonies in New England were becoming overcrowded. Not only that, but the farmers in the neighboring colonies of Connecticut and Massachusetts had overused the soil. Naturally, the surplus population wanted more land for themselves and their children, hence starting to migrate to the land that is now part of the state of Vermont. Enter Benning Wentworth, the governor of New Hampshire from 1741 to 66. An ambitious man, Wentworth aimed that the land west of the Connecticut River be part of his colony. He thus granted this land to groups of settlers to start constructing new towns. These towns were built under the conveniently named New Hampshire Grants, which are essentially the seeds behind the founding of the Vermont Republic. Indeed, in 1749, Wentworth chartered the first town, which he named Bennington after himself, and the governor would go on to found more than 100 towns in total west of the Connecticut River. However, there was a problem, as the colony of New York also thought that it owned the land west of the Connecticut River. Hence, both colonies, New York and New Hampshire, disputed the same land. As time went on, tensions between American settlers and the British Empire began to rise, culminating with the American War of Independence by April of 1775 and the Declaration of Independence by July of next year. Trapped between two warring giants, on the 2nd of January 1777, representatives of nearby Vermont towns met with the aim of leaving New York and New Hampshire completely and forming their own country under a new constitution. The Constitution of the Republic of the Green Mountains, which by the way was the official name until changed to Vermont in June of the same year, was adopted based on the American Constitution with a few caveats. For example, adult slavery was abolished in Vermont. Interestingly, this made Vermont the first US state to forbid slavery. Further, all adult males had the right to vote, regardless of their social standing. Thomas Crittenden, a remarkable man in Vermonter history, became Vermont's first governor in 1778. Therefore, the Vermont Republic started a revolution within a revolution. Yet, the nascent republic's problems did not end there, as the American Continental Congress never even once recognized the Republic as separate from New York. The British too never granted the Republic any recognition, despite it being a true nation with a militia. For example, an important historical figure in Vermont was militiaman Ethan Allen, the head of the Green Mountain Boys, which was a militia that consisted of settlers and farmers. The Green Mountain Boys was the only military force that existed in the history of the Republic. Fascinatingly, they fought with the Continental Army's side during the American Revolution by halting any British incursions from Quebec. As the 1780s came, frustrations over not being recognized as a separate nation began to rise for the people of Vermont. As such, Vermonters followed an aggressive diplomacy that included temporarily annexing towns in New York and New Hampshire, as well as conducting discussions with the British in Canada on the possible recognition of an independent Vermont. However, Vermont's policy did not bode well with the United States, who geographically surrounded the nation on three sides. Seeing the writing on the wall, in 1790, New York finally gave up its territorial claims to Vermont, and in the following year, after 14 years as a de facto independent, albeit unrecognized republic, Vermont was admitted into the Union as the 14th US state, to counterbalance the eventual admission of slave-owning Kentucky. There have been contemporary calls for the return of Vermont into independence. For example, the most prominent secessionist organization, called the Second Vermont Republic, was founded by the late Thomas Naylor, a professor of economics, in 2003. Overall, however, little Vermonters support the idea, which has ultimately failed to garner significant traction. In conclusion, it is without a doubt important to understand that North America has a more complex history than it may initially seem, and it is critical to inform oneself about the hidden gems in North American history, such as the Vermont Republic. If you liked this video, consider subscribing to the channel to spread history. This has been The Historiographer, and for now, see you in the next video.